Welcome back to the Media7 Summer Series. Now, according to some counts, about a quarter of the country has a Facebook profile now. And the population of Timaru, no, not the actual population of Timaru, uses Twitter regularly. But even if you're one of those people, you might not get what all the fuss is about when people talk about social media. Well, here's Jose, and he's here to help.
And the doctor says there should be no visible scarring. Hello, I've just told my family and friends that my recent vasectomy was successful, and I've done that using Twitter.
Twitter was created in 2006 by an American software designer called Jack Dorsey.
It's been described as text messaging on the internet, and here's how one tweets.
This is my profile page on Twitter. You can see here recent tweets from people I follow. Now all I do is type in whatever I want using 140 characters or less, click update, and now everyone who is following me can see my tweet on their page. Slightly more complicated is Facebook. Facebook was created by Mark Zuckerberg while he was a student at Harvard University. Facebook is a bit like Twitter. I can update my status, but I can also post photos, confirm attendance to events, join groups, play Scrabble, and work on my farm.
There's so much to do on Facebook that one sometimes loses track of time.
And there are other social networking sites like Bebo and MySpace, but Twitter and Facebook are the most well known and the most used for stories by the mainstream media.
Are you on Facebook yet?
Like most of the internet, the really interesting thing about social media is the way it's being used.
Last year, Barack Obama's presidential PR team used social media to create publicity for the campaign. And in Iran, critics of the presidential election used Twitter as a method of protest and a way to communicate with each other.
But it goes further. Have a look at this.
This is trendsmap.com. It's a site created by Stateless Systems, a startup company based in Melbourne. It shows you in real time what people are tweeting about anywhere in the world. So I can zoom into Western Australia, for example, and see that the most popular topics are yeah, screwed, and oh. The same idea has been used during the recent snowstorms in the UK. A bloke called Ben Marsh created this web-based application, mapping specific tweets about the snow. In fact, the storm has become something of an online event. The Guardian set up a similar map and had a live blog which consolidated traditional media reports and all manner of online stuff as it was posted.
And those are just a few examples of the way social media is being used. In fact, I'm surprised no one's found a way to beam tweets directly into my brain. What will continue to make an impact in 2010 are devices like the iPhone that enable people to take the internet with them. People can now tweet at any time, no matter where they are. So in 12 months' time, what will our online life look like? Will we still be taking Facebook quizzes to see what Emmerdale farm character we are? Will new mothers still be posting photos of the crowning process? The answer, as ever, is in the future, out there.
Joining me now are three people who are all in the game. Tech trend spotter and networker, Nat Talkington. Commentator and developer, Helen Ms. Behaviour Baxter. And Young and Rubicon creative director, Vaughan Davis. Welcome to you all. Now, I thought the best way in for this was to actually ask all of you what you do with social media. What are your social media habits, Nat?
This is the confessional part,
Yes.
is it? Yes. So my name is Nat Talkington and I'm a blogger and I also tweet.
Not so much the Facebook?
You know, not so much the Facebook. I leave that to the missus who's into it like an addict, but I'm starting to dip my toe into it a little bit, starting to find a use for it, but mainly I hang out on Twitter.
Right. Helen?
I use LinkedIn for business, Facebook for friends, and I also Twitter as Ms. Behaviour.
That's interesting that you use LinkedIn, because that's the one that often doesn't get mentioned, isn't it? That's
That's
the
right.
business
Yeah, that's right. And it's been around a lot longer than Facebook has. But it's a really good network for putting up a profile of yourself and also finding people in companies and yeah, just connecting in business to business way.
And Vaughan?
I'm in the marvellous position of being encouraged and almost compelled to try out every social medium I can as part of my job, which is pretty cool. But I suppose natively I'm a Timarubian. I find myself on Twitter probably more than my job dictates. We were talking before about TradeMe as a social network, and I think if you talk about social capital and whose opinion matters, I would probably count TradeMe as an important social network for me too.
And that's another one that's often left out, isn't it? I can recall last year when Nielsen did a study, released a paper on social media content in Australia and New Zealand, and didn't mention TradeMe at all. And yet that's where a lot of talk gets done.
Yeah, I think it's easy to concentrate on the trendy networks that I hate to call myself a trendy person, or perhaps trendy people like these guys. It's easier in the wider media to concentrate on those networks, but there's a hell of a lot of conversations happening in places, in the TradeMe forums and in places you'd never think to look, which are probably more reflective of the mood of the nation rather than the mood of virtual Timaru.
Yeah, I have to say that's also where most of the name suppression breaches happen, rather than in the blogs.
Yeah, well, or to put it another way, 0111011101.
Yes.
So is that your benchmark for when a medium finally matures? It's when it breaks the law?
Possibly, yes. What happened with Twitter last year? Because it had been around since 2006, and yet all of a sudden it seemed that it was the word on everyone's lips. Was it just a matter of time? Did it reach critical mass? Or? Yeah,
there was that. There was celebrities doing it overseas, which makes our celebrities go, ooh, maybe we should have a piece of that too. It's an interesting venue for customer service as well, because it's very public. And you get to do the whole, okay, now tell me what wrong and what went wrong, and have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? All that stuff in private. But people get to see, I had a problem with this company. Oh, look, that company cares and fixed it. And it's an interesting thing that hasn't been possible before, because normally all complaints, all resolutions have been done in private, but it's the complaints that generally happen in public, where people bitch and moan about the companies that haven't served them well.
Right, so you can actually have a good news story.
Exactly, yeah. And so there's a bit of incentive for companies to play with that. And so we saw more and more companies getting onto that and saying, oh, actually, I'll have a piece of that. That'd be great, thanks.
I wonder how well that's going to scale, though, because it's all very well, say Orcon, for example, the internet provider, all over Twitter, and you can see disputes being resolved. That works when there's 30,000 people using it. Does it work when a quarter of the country is using it?
Does it work for Orcon, or does it work for the rest of the country?
Does that kind of relationship with the company that you're buying products or services from actually work when all of a sudden you've got several 100,000 people there? They're not going to be able to respond.
They have to. I mean, they already do respond to all of their customer base. It's just that not all of it happens through Twitter. Right now they've got a lot of telephone calls, and they've got some support emails that they deal with. Twitter is just another queue that they pull off complaints from and deal to. It just happens to be a higher priority because you need to respond in real time. If people move from their complaints from email or from the phone to Twitter, it's not going to be more of a load on Orcon or any other company to deal with that.
Helen, the thing that strikes me about Twitter is that, and we often forget this, is that it was originally conceived as a mobile service.
That's right.
I think it's the one thing, it's certainly the thing that's gotten me using my phone for data.
Yeah, that's right. I think Twitter's the one that's taken social networks mobile onto the mobile phone, and of course a lot more people now getting smartphones coming through. There's other parts of the world as well. We forget in New Zealand that the way that we use social media is very different to, say, to Japan, where 75% of people use social media on mobile phones and only 2% actually use them through PC only. And the other thing about these social networks is, well, they're becoming a form of online identity. I mean, you can now log into all manner of sites with your Twitter account or your Facebook login, your Facebook Connect. So they're also becoming identities that people invest into. There's social capital, like with TradeMe, for example. People really heavily invest in their TradeMe reputation system. And I think this is the interesting thing, the transparency in the reputation systems that are coming out of these social networks have direct application in business as well. And The majority of Twitters are actually for business use. Most people assume that it's just people talking about what their cat's doing today, but that's not necessarily the case.
That's interesting, actually, Vaughan, because in your industry, people seem to have been able, people with an explicit marketing task seem to have been able to integrate themselves into these platforms in a way that maybe, you and I are old school internet people, we would have raised a stink if there'd been an advertising person in there, but it seems to work.
I think the key to it is just the two main things are being open about it and being prepared to be there for the long haul. So long as you're overtly commercial, I think people are quite happy to engage with you. And you don't even need to have a personal relationship. Going back to your Orcon example, Telecom, I think, is doing quite good work on Twitter. They're resolving a lot of complaints, they're answering a lot of questions. But they're not pretending that there's any one person answering all the questions. And to your point of half the countries engaging with their Twitter channel, they can't possibly have the same person doing it. They do a really nice thing, which a few of the operators are doing, which is just doing a little caret sign off with the initials of the person you're talking to. And when you go back to their profile page, you see a little photo of them. So if you want to dig deep, you can see who they are. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got my old favourite, the Airpoints Ferry. Who, as far as I know, is a 52-year-old man living in Onehunga. I hope she's not. My dreams are very wrong if she really is a man. But there's no identity at all. It's a cartoon, but deeply engaged with.
Well, I think that's something that Twitter's just brought out is a business style account. So for every one account under a brand name, you can have multiple identities running. So you get that personal one-on-one connection, but you're still dealing with a brand name and a company.
Yeah, I was interested with the Orcon's Iggy Pop stunt this year. Rather than going the route of building a great big grand event website, they used all the existing platforms. The homepage for that was Facebook. They publicised it via Twitter, and the videos were on YouTube. Do you think we'll see more of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to take an old school metaphor, you don't create a television station every time you make an ad. You make your ad or you make your content and you go to the places that people are already watching, and that's the future of it. I mean, in a fantastic version of this, there's a US agency called Crispin Porter Bogusky, who have used social media channels within their own website to populate it with publicly generated information. Have you seen it? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, they've aggregated everything that's being said about them, being said about their customers, being said about their brands, and that is their website, which is incredibly brave.
Well, I already know people in PR who just have standing searches set up in Twitter with their clients' names.
And there are applications that you can use that make it easy for you to do that kind of reputation tracking online and see what are people saying about me, what have I missed that I need to know about. Because if I don't, people are going to be talking about me and saying crap about me.
And this is the sort of thing that you had to pay a clippings agency quite a lot of money to do, not that long ago.
And that now the clippings agencies can't do.
Yeah, I think listening is becoming incredibly important. You're right. And if we all bang on about social media being a conversation, but historically there's not been a lot of listening happening. And it's a pretty crappy conversation when you're not listening first. So, in the conversations we're having with our clients, the first phase is weeks or months or as long as you can stand of just listening. Seeing what people are saying, and importantly, seeing where they're saying it. Because it's easy to assume that the social network you use is the social network that your customers use, but it's not necessarily. They may be in some place you've never heard of. They may all be hanging out in World of Warcraft and having conversations there.
Well, they might be going to an actual cafe or something.
No, tweeting across the table. Well, yeah, going to an actual cafe and visiting it by Foursquare. So location-based social networking.
Explain Foursquare to me.
No, don't make me explain Foursquare.
But all my friends on Twitter are using Foursquare. What is it?
Okay, as I understand it, I'm not a user, I'm a lurker, I'm a watcher. Foursquare is a location-based social networking tool where you can visit places, say you've visited them, accumulate points and win brownie badges basically for visiting them, share your experiences about them. So if I'm about to go to Giappo's Ice Cream Parlour on Queen Street, I can see what other people are saying about it that have been there. And interestingly, and this sort of drives to the egotist in all of us, if you're the person who visits it the most and says the most about it and takes the most friends, you become the mayor of a certain place. So you're seeing over Twitter all at the moment is so and so is becoming the mayor of this cafe or the mayor of that thing.
So they're using gameplay to encourage people to record information about places to leave recommendations is one of the other things. So that if you go to Giapo's, you might have a recommendation that says, no, go to the ice cream bar down the street, or vice versa. And it's encouraging people to basically build up the database of the social network site full of useful location recommendations and metadata, only in the disguise of a game.
It sounds like a time sink to me. Is there?
Well, they all do. I mean, sitting around talking to people sounds like a time sink.
Is there going to be a point where we don't have time to do all this stuff?
The best description I've ever heard of social networking is the mortar between the bricks of your day. When the bricks start to disappear, which on occasion they have for me, that's a problem. But when it's just something you can fit in, when it's short and simple, that's the other move, is towards simplicity. If it's just 140 characters, you can fit that in. You can bang that out, as long as you're not labouring over the digital haiku. You can fit that between an email or a phone call.
Yeah, I like the haiku metaphor actually. Well, we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk about privacy.